This podcast is a member of the Red 5 Network. For more Red 5 Network podcasts and content creators, visit bio.link/red5.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
What up, what up, what up, comic book family and nerds of all shapes and sizes? What is happening? Hello, everybody in the chat, and hello, Spencer.
What's up?
I heard you were a little ill last couple of days.
Yeah. Had better days, but you know what? I'm feeling good enough to talk about Star Wars, and so I think that's what matters.
Excellent. You took a little dip in the bacta tank to get yourself all well.
Yesterday, spent the entire day in that bacta tank. I understand why Anakin likes it so much now.
Yes, it's like being back in the womb. Excellent. Thank you guys in the chat for joining us here on a midweek Scarif Live. We are back to doing our comic book reviews, and there's one follower that I want to give. We both want to give a nice welcome and hello and thank you for suggesting that after we did our comic review on what was the last one we did was the
Cassian and
K2SO. We put out a question on the socials there. What should we cover next? And our friend Vader Rapina suggested that we talk about the Dark Horse series, Darth Maul, son of Dathomir. So there it is. Spencer bought the trade. Looks really nice.
Yeah, I love this.
And sexy. But we're going to be talking about that. The chat has been pumping, so thank you very much for joining us. We got Backyard TARDIS, They Gone, Nicole, Vader, of course. I mentioned. Big thanks to Vader. I'm gonna do a little something later on too, Vader. So don't go away. Don't miss the end of this. There'll be a big surprise. Let's see. Patrick Richard is in the house. Thank you very much for stopping by. That junk man. Hey, it's the Junk Man. Excellent. So he's around. Thank you guys for joining us. So I wanted to ask you, Spencer, what do you think in general? What do you think of Darth Maul as a character?
I really like him, especially with what Clone Wars did for his character. I just really like that reinvention of the character, and hearing that Darth Maul series is officially a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It has me very excited. It's one of the things I'm honestly most looking forward to next from Star Wars in general. And so overall I really like his character, especially from the animated stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they really treated his character quite well. Like you said, a reinvention, but I think there's obviously big impact the way that the character ended up, and all in between. Yeah. I guess the in between stuff is the very interesting stuff. Obviously, we see him, pop up at the end of the Solo movie. We know what happens to him as far as being, a crime lord, and the story that gets played out. So a lot of big surprises with Darth Maul as a character since we saw him go down that shaft at half off, 50% discount. So good stuff. And I know a lot of people are like, oh man, how can you survive that sort of thing? But I think the Rebels animated series really did a good job at representing his pain, the rage that kept him alive. What do you think of that?
I'd agree with that. It sticks out to me in the episode where you actually see Darth Maul come back in Clone Wars, specifically, of like, it just showcases how sadistic the dark side of the Force can be. And I think that's what stands out with this version of the character. And I think it perfectly aligns too with when you hear stuff about like how Darth Plagueis and being able to manipulate life. It makes sense that I think Maul would survive in such a way that only a Sith would survive and not a Jedi.
Of course. Yeah. I'll give you that for sure. People in the chat are saying that, like Nicole here, excited for the Darth Maul series. And I forgot, what is that called? That's going to be called Maul Shadow Lord.
Yes.
And that's going to be interesting. It's that's one of the things that kind of hit me by surprise when they announced that the series was coming. So
I heard it was a rumored thing for a long time.
Okay.
So I wasn't sure if it was going to happen. But I'm glad it is though. So,
yeah.
Very cool.
Absolutely. All right. So Star Wars Darth Maul, son of Dathomir. And one thing that really is kind of a switch for us is, the last couple of comic books we've been doing Marvel comics. And this one is from Dark Horse. And I was telling you right before we started, I really enjoy the Dark Horse the Dark Horse Star Wars run. I think, after Marvel kind of lost the license, Dark Horse kind of picked it up. And there's a lot of really great stories and really great characters that were introduced. So I'm glad that we're kind of going back to Dark Horse. I think like during the week and the next couple of days, I'm going to dig through my boxes and kind of look at some of the Dark Horse Star Wars comic books, because they're really, really great.
That's awesome.
So this is a have you had any other Dark Horse Star Wars material in your lineup?
Oh, I don't remember what it's called. Dark Horse years ago used to do like these cool like omnibuses. They called it omnibuses, but they're not as big as what you would traditionally think as an omnibus with those like big comic collections. But there was one that I have called, I believe it's called Empire at War.
Okay.
And that's my main other Dark Horse. I have one other actually. I don't remember what it is. But yeah, I've a little bit. I've dabbled in it lightly, not much.
Yeah. There's a question in the chat. Asks, why and how did he come back? And it's like they say on Facebook, it's complicated. But I think, there was a rumor that George Lucas actually wanted to bring him back to the animated show. I'm not sure if anybody can confirm that. I remember kind of reading something about that.
I remember hearing that he was wanting to bring him back for the sequels somehow, which would have been very interesting.
Yeah, it would have been. So obviously, I guess in a nutshell, after he fell to supposedly his death at episode 1, he survived that. And remind me, at that point, was he shipped off to Dathomir
No, it was some like trash planet he was on that Savage, his brother, went to go search for him after Mother Talazin kind of gave him this mission of like track down your long lost brother who is still alive.
Yeah.
And so
yes.
But yeah, his rage kept him alive. He had like these crazy spider legs and
that's actually the spider leg Darth Maul image is really, really interesting. Especially in a supposed, kids entertainment franchise. Well, as far as Rebels goes, I think there are images out there where there are action figures that portray Darth Maul with the half spider body, and it's really a strong image. It's really graphic, and it gives you a glimpse of the pain and stuff that Darth Maul was going through. And obviously, if you had not watched the Rebels animated series, I mean, it gives you a whole story of why he's still around, what he's doing. I think after a while, after the criminal underworld, he takes over the Mandalore. He becomes kind of a big wig in there because of the dark saber. So he's got a really interesting story. It weaves in and out of history, and it's interesting. I know a lot of people are not fans of his return, but I think if Solo was had kind of a different story when it comes to results, box office, I think I probably would have been a really great story to kind of see why Darth Maul is at the end of Solo. But I think for people that know the story from Rebels, there's a history there for sure.
Indeed.
Skywalker Academy, thanks for joining us. Stick around. Hopefully you can and hear the rest of our talk. So I mean, what are your thoughts on why Darth Maul came back? Really not Nate came back. I think he was always there. It's just that we pick up the story a couple of years later, as the story continues. But I think it's cool.
I don't know if I know the reasons as to why they decided to bring him back, and I think that would be a very interesting discussion to hear them, sit in and listen on, as he's definitely very much presumed dead when he's chopped in half, but. It's one of those character quote unquote deaths, though, or when you bring him back, where I'm like, I really like it, even though there's a whole criticism of like, oh, no one really dies, but it's one of those cases where I kind of like give it a pass because I really like what they do with his character and really evolving the character so much more to be, I think, a way more interesting character. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really like the character in Phantom Menace. Definitely a big highlight of the movie, but his reinvention, I think, is just awesome. Clone Wars is between Rebels and Clone Wars or all the animated stuff. Clone Wars is my favorite, and the Maul stuff being one of the reasons why it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think, like I said, bringing back that character in the way that they did, I think they didn't waste the opportunity. They really did something with the character, and obviously, the story continues in Rebels up until his demise, and his motivation. I mean, there's hatred in his heart especially for Obi-Wan Kenobi, because obviously, he blames Obi-Wan for everything that he has suffered, and he's on this quest to finally find him. If you guys want to learn a little bit more, go launch Disney Plus and check out, some of the stories towards the end there. Really kind of powerful stuff character-wise between Obi-Wan and Darth Maul. I think it's a treat for fans if you want to kind of learn a little more, for sure.
Indeed.
All right. Darth Maul, Son of Dathomir, is a 4-part miniseries from Dark Horse, and I can't remember what year it came out, but
2014, I believe. Something I actually want to bring up before we delve into this issue is that
2014.
Even though it's from Dark Horse, interesting enough, this is the only canon Dark Horse, like adult Dark Horse series, because this series is actually based from a scrapped Clone Wars arc. And much like what happened with the novel Dark Disciple, which is also a scrapped Clone Wars arc that they made into a novel, they reworked it into becoming this comic series. And so what's really cool about this is that you can kind of view it as like each issue is like a planned episode of the Clone Wars that they were going to do at some point. And it's really interesting because the last point you would see Darth Maul prior to this series coming out was when that Clone Wars episode when he confronts Palpatine with Savage, and Palpatine kills Savage there, and literally the episode ends with Palpatine electrocuting Darth Maul. And the next time you see Darth Maul on screen, well, okay, not counting Rebels, but next time you'd see him on screen within Clone Wars is the beginning, is that amazing Clone Wars arc with him and Ahsoka and that whole Fall of Mandalore stuff. And so this story is a very essential piece as to filling in that gap in between what happened between those two stories.
Okay. Well, that's cool. That's a cool little tidbit of trivia there. Dark Horse. And again, I really enjoyed the Star Wars Dark Horse run. There's a lot of really great stories there. I'm gonna take a look at some of that stuff during the week. Vader Rapina, that's cool. He says it came out shortly after Rennie and I got together.
Nice.
That's wonderful. So no wonder it is close to your heart. Excellent. So story was written by Jeremy Barlow, and I don't recognize any of these other names.
No.
Cover art by Chris Scalf, and I know there's a couple of alternate covers. The one that you have in the trade is the one that I'm familiar with, and I think I do have the book. It's probably that version, but
Awesome.
obviously we got a nice shot of Darth Maul on the cover for our purposes. So all right, we're gonna get into a couple of the frames and maybe kind of go through it real fast. But he's in prison, right? What happens? What happens here at the first part of the story here?
Well, yeah, we see that he's imprisoned by Palpatine, and we see that Palpatine's wanting to sort of do something with him, as Palpatine always has some sort of plan going on. Something I really like is with those battle droids there. We see that's an interesting version of those battle droids that I don't know if we've particularly seen those anywhere else.
You mean because of they kind of look like tattoos or special markings?
Yeah, it looks really interesting. I like the look.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think we've really seen them anywhere else. What's interesting is they highlight that this is a secret prison known only to a few. Has me curious also who else Palpatine would be keeping in this prison. Right. But in particular, I do really like that battle droid look.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, good stuff. So here he is, with energy binders in prison. Palpatine is talking to him. What is he saying to him? What's going on? He's obviously, this is post episode 1, I think, or no, I can't remember now.
This is set during Clone Wars, and so
he's no longer his apprentice, obviously.
Right. Yeah. This is right after Palpatine just killed Savage, so Maul's quite bad at absolutely everybody at this point in time.
Yeah.
And this is interesting here too, because we get to see Dooku and Maul interact here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The art is not bad. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I do like the art style on this.
Yeah. And Darth Maul is such a character that I would welcome any rendition of an artist doing Darth Maul. I think he's obviously he's got such a unique look that it would be great to see kind of some alternate takes. Yeah. Maybe some Japanese style animated looks.
Something that'd be interesting is if in the back of this it shows. It's an advertisement for Darth Maul, black, white, and red, which is something that came out probably, I'm going to guess 2 years ago, which is an anthology series of Darth Maul, where each issue is 3 short stories. All the colorings in it is black, white, red, and I believe it's just a 4-issue miniseries of different little anthology series. But point is, though, with something like that, you'd get a bunch of different artistic looks at Darth Maul through that little series that came out.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love that. So the next frame here, Dooku and Palpatine are talking about Mother Talzin, and
yeah, it's interesting because Palpatine gets the inkling that Mother Talzin's still alive after that big attack that Grievous did, and so I just love how this comic picks run off of those big Clone Wars arcs, which are just some of my favorite episodes in all of Clone Wars.
Yeah, and I was telling you right before we started, it cracks me up the baby Maul here being manhandled. So the mission, according to Palpatine, he wants if you remind me, he wants Dooku to go out and see if he can find Mother Talzin.
Right. That's the end goal.
Yeah. She presents a threat and must be snuffed out.
Yeah. I think this creates an interesting sort of, I don't want to call it parallel, although I guess it's a parallel of sorts where now with stuff in like Ahsoka and what's going on in the Manoverse, where somebody like Thrawn is now really trying to lead in on using that sort of stuff when Palpatine was so against it.
Yeah, and obviously towards the end of Clone Wars, and was it Rebels or Clone Wars? I mean, he really leaned into it.
Yeah, it was all
You
Clone
know?
Wars. I don't
Yeah.
think there's really any of that in Rebels.
I think there is, because unless,
Was there?
yeah, if you remember in Rebels, there was a little bit of a story arc where Palpatine was trying to coax Ezra to believing that his parents were still alive, and all he needed to do was cross the threshold and be with them. But I think that was Palpatine kind of playing with dark magic and trying to get into Ezra's head.
I don't remember that much.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've watched Rebels, to be fair, though. But
yeah, I think I when Palpatine shows up in Rebels, it's always a treat. So I keep that in my mind. All right, so now we've got some just regular old battle droids guarding, and we see, some Mandalorians
Gar
come in.
Saxon.
Yeah, come in and rip their heads off. And again, it's funny. In the wide shot, you don't see the tattoos or the markings on the droids, but in this shot, you do.
Yeah.
I'll forgive them for that. But Commander Saxon is the one carrying out the mission, and I think it's a rescue mission.
Yep.
And it's funny because I always proceed with your extraction and rendezvous with our forces in Zanzibar, but it's not really Zanzibar. Sorry. I kept on in my mind. I kept reading Zanzibar. So that's the mission. They're trying to obviously rescue Maul from Palpatine's. And this is a great interaction, like you said, Dooku. Really, grilling Maul, doing little kind of insults, and obviously, it's great when you see Dark Force lightning. So
yeah, of course.
That's always wonderful to see. And again, I think the art style is really rough. The lines are not super crisp, but I think that adds to the tone of this scene in particular, the shading and stuff like that.
Yeah, I do enjoy the art style of this. I think it's very reminiscent of how I remember a bunch of the Dark Horse stuff.
And Nick over at Backyard TARDIS confirms that I may be correct. Yeah, so
and that's vaguely remember that now that you say that.
Those are some great stories because obviously, for Nick and me, I think it kind of it resembles some old biblical type temptation stories, which are always interesting to kind of see, them being incorporated into modern stories and modern entertainment. But here we get some more action between these cool Mandalorians.
Yeah,
I love this. Boom.
Right. Yeah, I just the whole time reading this, especially as we get into the action here, I just picture it in my head as a Clone Wars episode as it was going to be, and it really does read that way of what you'd get with those Clone Wars episodes, because so many of those episodes really does take the full 22 minute runtime, where it doesn't waste a single minute, and I feel like what is this all 20-30 pages of this, it doesn't waste a single page.
Sure. Yeah. So obviously the Saxon and his agent there, his soldier, are laying waste to the droids, trying to get to Maul. And it's funny because we've been reviewing some of the older some of the other comic books, and this one really it really stands on its own when it comes to the action and the layout. Really enjoying, kind of following the dialogue and the action on this one.
Yeah.
Um,
And unlike the other ones as well, it's a comic that really is important to read too. Like this is arguably, if you could only read one Star Wars comic, it might be this one because it ties in so closely with Clone Wars and Maul's character and all that. Versus a lot of the other ones are just like, yeah, this is a fun story to fill in some gaps or something like that.
Right. And one thing I noticed, I think up until we see the Mandalorian characters, a lot of the coloring is very muted, grays and things like that. They obviously have a little bit more color in their outfits. But again, when you start to see the action, obviously you see the color of the explosions, which kind of sets the framing apart. They finally get to Maul. And they bring him down. And again, I love that usually when somebody goes and rescues somebody like, Han, Luke rescuing Leia, nobody really has a plan, like an exit strategy.
Right.
And they just go out shooting. And Maul goes, "This was your plan?"
Right.
That's too funny. But they managed to rescue him. And they are outside of the prison.
Yeah, shooting a big grappling hook down there.
Right.
Pretty cool. I just love seeing Mandalorians in action. Like all their armors are just so cool, and I'll take Mandalorians wherever I can get them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the uniqueness of their helmets also lend to the coolness factor of their outfits.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I find Gar Saxon just to be like one of the coolest looking characters out there, just because it's like, oh, you already have an awesome Mandalorian costume. Maul looks awesome. What if you just combine the two? And
right. So let me ask you this, because I know during an era of the Clone Wars when Darth Maul was the leader of Mandalore, remind me, what was the name of the Mandalorians that he? It wasn't Death Watch.
Yeah, it was Death Watch. He
was it?
allied with, and the leader, what's his name, Pre Vizsla.
Yeah.
He backstabbed him, and the backstabbed Maul, and then that's how Maul came into possession of the Darksaber by winning that duel against him.
Yeah, and it's funny because I know there's some people in the chat that don't watch Rebels and don't know what the hell we're talking about, but it again, it's one of those things that obviously if you watch The Mandalorian, if you watch any of the shows, you really don't have to watch the stuff before, especially cross medium like live action versus animation. But if you do watch the animation, I think it's one of those things as a fan that you're like, oh, that's cool, they made the connection.
I think
I know
so much,
and I know a lot of people don't want to do homework when they're watching shows, but I find it that it's less homework and more like, if you happen to be not like a completist fan, but you have to understand that these stories are come from different medium. The game, you got stories that kind of are related to live action through the games, through the comic books, et cetera, the shows obviously, but it's nice to know when you connect something that you see in one project versus going back and seeing the other stuff. So it's really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
And like I said, it's not about homework. It's like if you do enjoy experiencing some other stuff, then I would encourage you to do so. They Gone, and I'm talking to you specifically. Don't be lazy. But it is,
even though there's 7 seasons of Clone Wars, I highly recommend it. Is what I truly love about it. And if you enjoy the Star Wars universe, the reason why I love that show so much is because it expands the universe so much when it's not told like a traditional show, but instead having these mini arcs that explore different quarters of the universe or of the galaxy. And that's what I ultimately love about that show, is that it adds so much to the world of Star Wars in just a single season. And that's what I love about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Star Wars is a franchise that's almost 50 years old. There's a lot out there. You can't expect, not to have things interconnect.
Right.
You're lucky if you do know how they interconnect and why, but I think it's not like completely
Yeah.
necessary. All right, so this is a really great shot. I love Maul
Oh, yeah.
jumping and diving in. Obviously, the Mandos have their jetpacks, but he's kind of flying high. And again, I think the artwork is really reminiscent of a lot of the 70s and 80s male characters. You've got the muscle tone
Right.
and the shape. Really, really good stuff.
So say Maul's muscles there does look a little bigger than what do you like think of his muscles big when you see him
Sure.
in Clone Wars and whatnot.
Yeah. Obviously, the droids are chasing them. They figure out if they should go in there and follow them, and they're afraid. They say negative. So,
Yeah, they're like, you're expecting us to follow that, and we ain't doing that.
yeah. So here's a ship that we've seen, obviously, in the Ahsoka series. I think it's called the Gauntlet. I don't know if it's that particular ship, but it's the same, style, the
Yeah.
same family of ships.
Yeah.
That they escape in. So that's kind of cool. And then obviously the Gauntlet we saw in the Ahsoka series. Another Mandalorian had the same ship.
Yeah.
Bo-Katan.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, they escape in the ship and lay waste to the droids here. What's the chat saying? Like, comment, and share, and do it
Indeed.
all over again. Absolutely. Thank you. They gone. I always want to say they gone. Where they go? They gone. Excellent. Yes. Get more butts to scuttle. And next time I will use more red arrows.
There we go.
There we go. All right. So this is a really cool sequence talking about the prequel trilogy. It definitely has prequel trilogy feel to it.
Oh yeah.
Maul. So they're talking to General Grievous, and it's a really nice little twist. Obviously, Dooku is communicating with him at the end, telling him that Maul escaped. What does he say? Direct your fleet there and engage him. He's had time to
attack Maul.
marshal his forces, so be prepared. You should have killed Maul when you had him in your custody. I told you he was too dangerous to let live. That seems to be the big mistake for a lot of people.
Sassy Grievous there should have killed him when he had the chance.
Yeah. But really great scene with Dooku and Grievous here.
Yeah. It was cool saying about Grievous.
Yeah. Remember, you must hurt Maul, but not destroy him. Weaken his forces, injure his pride. So it seems like they're giving him false hope in order for him to lead them to their ultimate mission, which is Mother Talzin.
Yep.
And let's see, they're setting course to chase him. And I forgot, they land on Zanzibar. Not really Zanzibar. A secret shadow collective base on the swamp moon of Zanbar. Not Zanzibar. But the Mandalorian ship of choice is that Gauntlet ship with the wings that fold up. Pretty cool. They meet. And Maul says, Prime Minister Almec, I have you to thank for securing my release. And they communicate with Almec through a hologram.
Yeah.
So they claim that they recovered the Darksaber from the palace grounds after his capture on Mandalore. And they hand it over to him. Obviously, he's I'll say it in quotes, the rightful owner.
Right.
And he raises it in victory. And I think that's where this part ends.
Sun and the Pikes.
Yes.
Victory or death. Victory or death. Love it.
And again, we would have gotten a nice little insight to Darth Maul's criminal story if we got a solo part 2 in some form or fashion. And I know there was a little bit of story there during the Bounty Hunter series. That was also a comic book series that dealt with Kira and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, they had some events specifically tying into all that stuff. I read the first 2. I didn't read the last one.
Yeah, I think I have that somewhere as well. Again, I am guilty of buying something because the covers are cool and then forgetting about it. And actually, I think I have it right here. Mine is, I think I showed it to you once, signed by Charles Soule.
War of the Bounty Hunters, yeah. I collected all of that event when it came out.
Yeah.
One of the few events that I've gotten everything to because I was really excited for it.
Oh, that wasn't the end.
No, there's a bit more. Just a little bit more.
Yeah. So let's see. Oh yeah, more battles. I think Grievous finally finds them. They land some troops on the planet. The droid commander says the Mandalorians' heavy firepower won't be enough to repel our droid ships. Grievous is like, good. Kick their butts.
Yeah, exactly.
And oh yeah, there's quite a few
action.
Quite a few more things, and it's funny because I always pay attention to kind of the layout of the comic book. It's been pretty traditional, so far. And when the action starts, you start to see angles and overlaps and things like that, which is kind of cool. You see the droidekas, disembarking, and now I remember there is a massive attack on Darth Maul's forces through sheer numbers of droids that are coming after them, so much that they're pretty much decimated. You've got Grievous up there. He doesn't care about the droids. He just keeps sending waves and waves of droids. You've got all the droids, actually every incarnation of battle droids and combatants in the if you guys remember in the prequels. I really enjoyed these droids with the little glowy electric sticks.
Yeah
They were pretty powerful. But everybody has been unloaded onto the Mandalorian camp and is really putting up a fight.
Indeed.
A lot of really cool action sequences in this one too towards the end.
Absolutely.
And I think that's one of my favorite things is really, seeing how the pages lay out. You've got the action, you've got obviously the sound effects. The art is really great, and I almost feel like the art got better from the beginning to now.
I can definitely see that. There's a lot of effort put into this big action sequence, deservedly so. Like just seeing Maul beat up those what are they called, Magna Guards, if I remember right. It's awesome. And then we see Grievous kick some ass there too. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And pretty impactful, these shots here. You've got Darth Maul doing a little flip, and again, really good work. Really good work.
So you're seeing Maul and Grievous there go at it.
Yeah, really good stuff. And again, the overlap on the framing really adds to the kinetic energy of the story being told at this point. This would be a really great little poster.
Oh yeah,
Maul and Grievous.
Yeah, what a moment.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think the battle was so severe, and I know their mission was, don't destroy them completely, just give them a little bit of hope. But I think they went a little overboard.
It was a rough battle.
Yeah. Arg. Yeah, but it was a good one.
Indeed, for sure.
Again, the simplicity of some of these layouts. We're not finished yet. My gauntlet fighters have yet to enter the fight. Here they go, and they drop some sort of thermal, grenades,
bombing them, yeah.
and pretty much indiscriminate carnage ensues. Looks like
And
he was
Maul
limping.
gets away.
Drop down to Lord Maul's position. He escapes. And let's see, who is this? Cast. Again, another cool outfit.
Yeah.
Maul gets rescued a second time for the day. And then they fly off. But obviously, the forces on that camp were pretty much destroyed and decimated. And again, I think that's one of the cool things I like about this era of, especially with a character like Grievous. He's he's ruthless. He's So he says, I have done as you asked. I have made Maul bleed. I think you made a little bit more than just blood come out of Maul there. What were his losses? Extensive, of course. It seems like he's the only one that kind of got away. He tells him that he's got his own losses as well. Yes, Vader. Electro napalm. That's definitely what it looked like. And it's funny because you mentioned that this pretty much plays as a Clone Wars episode, and I really would have loved to have seen this battle played out in animation. It's
100%.
exciting. Yeah, it was exciting in art form as a comic book, but as an animated show, that would have been really great.
Yeah, I find it cool that even because obviously this was a planned story that they were probably going to tell in the latter half of season 5, season 6, I'd think. And so it's very cool to see that they got to tell that story elsewhere, that we even got the story before, way before the thought of them being able to do a season 7 was, possibility.
Yeah. And it's funny because I've seen other Star Wars creators talk about, lost episodes and lost stories. And I wonder how many of those lost stories exist somewhere in somebody's vault,
Yeah. One of the things I really hope we get is that, we've seen that footage of the Cad Bane and Boba Fett fight that was going to be part of that season, and I think that would have been really cool. Or I think that would be really cool to see canonized somewhere.
Sure. Yeah. What cracks me up is, after seeing that, you can still see the dent in Boba Fett's helmet. And it's like, why don't they have 3D printers? Just print up a new helmet, man.
Sentimental.
Sentimental, yeah. But obviously, after this battle, Maul gets away. You've got a discussion between Grievous and Count Dooku, talking about assessing the damage and the situation. Dooku obviously tells Grievous, make sure that no one learns of their true intentions. And Grievous is like, what are they? He goes, all in good time. You will see, all in good time. To be continued. So interesting story. They are after Mother Talzin for reasons yet to be revealed, and a good start, I think, to this this episode or this series. Here's a cool little rendition of the battle here.
It's the cover for next issue.
Yeah. Some other covers here, but like I said, I really enjoy the Dark Horse comic book series of Star Wars. It really gave us like I said, some nice stories. They were really cool, and I'm gonna have to dig up go through my box again.
Yeah, it's an era I want to get into a bit more for sure.
Yeah,
lots of big stuff.
Lots of big stuff. So let me see here. The Son of Dathomir. What for it being the first issue of a 4-part series, what are your thoughts on this first part?
I was very pleased with it. Like I mentioned earlier, I just reading through it, and I just viewed it as if I was watching an episode of the Clone Wars, one that, just like you, wish very much that we would have gotten on screen. But very happy we still at least got that story than it being completely scrapped. And so I was very happy with it. Really enjoyed it. Lots of awesome stuff happened, especially when uh, I'm I'm a fan of seeing characters like Maul and Grievous and seeing them two interact. And I feel like there's a bunch of big stuff that happens, especially in this issue, and big episode for sure.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff, especially for just being a single issue. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of really cool action sequences that happened, a lot of reveals, not too many, but I think it was a good story.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I
for
agree.
sure.
Yeah, really good
Um,
start.
Very good start. So this is first of a 4 series comic book.
Indeed.
Keep wanting to say episodes because I'm in that mode, but that's okay. And Vader Rapina, thank you so much for suggesting that we take this on our Scarif Scuttlebutt comic review. Whenever we ask for your advice, folks that follow the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast, we obviously we say thank you, but sometimes we want to be able to really say thank you and appreciate when you guys give us suggestions. Vader Rapina on Twitter, if you don't follow him, please give him a follow and check out his he's a big wrestling fan, obviously
Awesome.
Darth Vader fan, so he's got a lot of cool stuff to say. And thank you very much, Vader. As a thank you, I'm going to send you, and I already have your address, brother. I'm going to send you a K2SO and or action figure, which is really cool. I love this action figure. It's really nice.
Beautiful.
Part of the vintage 3.5 whatchamacallit line.
Yeah,
And this one obviously is from the Andor series.
love it.
And yeah, I'll send this out to you with a couple of extra stickers, and hopefully you'll be able to enjoy it. I don't know if you are the take it out of the box kind of guy. I think you're not, because I've seen your wall of action figures from some of the other stuff that we might have sent you. But yes, Vader, this is going to you. Thank you so much for suggesting Darth Maul, Son of Dathomir. And it's kind of cool that it has kind of a little bit of a romantic connection for you. So that's really cool.
That's awesome.
So next week, part 2. What do you think?
Looking forward to delving into more of it. Awesome stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. Anybody else new in the chat came in? No, they're just talking about some cool stuff. Skywalker
Indeed.
Academy is in there. But yes, thank you guys, everybody, for joining us on this comic book review, the first of the 4-part series for Darth Maul, Son of Dathomir, Dark Horse Comics. If you don't have any Dark Horse comics, too bad for you. But I'm gonna go dig in my box and kind of pull out some of the Dark Horse comics. Really great stories. And what new comic books are out that you just happen to pick up before we say goodbye?
Gosh. Last week I picked up a lot of weeks worth. There's a lot I picked up. There's I think DC's killing it right now. As far as all the mainline stuff goes, I think Marvel's kind of a mess right now with their the comics right now, and so. But DC back in October started their All In initiative, which is their biggest initiative in many years, and I think they've been doing a lot of great stuff since then. And so I would recommend actually checking out a bunch of that stuff. They've been doing the absolute titles, which are really good, which is like their version of the Marvel's Ultimate Universe, where it's like an alternate universe, different takes on the characters and whatnot. And so I actually just recently read through the newest issues of all that stuff that I picked up, because they have Absolute Batman as a huge one, but then they also have Superman, Wonder Woman, Martian Manhunter, Flash, and Green Lantern. All really interesting.
Excellent. I just picked up this random pile of comic books that I have on my desk here, and there is a Dark Horse Star Wars comic. It's called Blood Ties. Boba Fett is dead.
Oh,
so
interesting.
It gives you a story of post Return of the Jedi.
I guess.
I think I don't.
I've seen that story,
Yeah.
but I haven't read it.
Yeah. What else is in this random pile? I've got a detective comic.
Oh, nice. Detective Comics.
Sometimes I'll go into a thrift store and say, well, what tickles my fancy? This I don't know what this is.
I have not heard of that one.
And what
intriguing though.
And again, this is one of the things that, like, oh my god, I love this cover. I don't know what it is, but I'll get it.
Yeah.
And it's again, really great art. What company is this? Oh, it's Image.
Excellent.
Image comic books. And I don't know who the character is. I don't know who it is, but apparently she's talking to a wolf on the inside. Yeah. And speaking of comic books, our friend, the real Sean Crummell, Smacked in the Head. If you guys are into independent comic books, he really does some really fantastic work. I would urge you guys to give him a follow. The real Sean Crummell. There is his name down there on all the socials, and he's got an Etsy shop. And I still have not purchased issue number 2, which I'm going to very soon. But really great art, really good characters. And again, if you are into independent comic books, support Sean and buy a comic or two. Any last words, Spencer, from you? Where can people find you to say hello?
Find me at the Dingus Den, as you see right down there on YouTube, for more comic content. Actually, tomorrow I have premiering a new series called Hellboys, where me and my friend Castro are going through Hellboy stuff. So we'll be talking about the very first Hellboy arc, Seed of Destruction, which that first Ron Perlman movie is loosely based on. And then on Sunday, be sure to check out the Comic Den, my weekly live comic show, where me and Steve are going to be honoring the late Peter David, who just passed away last weekend. And he's a huge comic legend, as he helped define the character of Hulk as we know him, as well as work on a bunch of other stuff. But that's what his most notable work is for, what he's most known for. So we're actually going to be talking about one of the biggest Hulk arcs he's done, if not the biggest that most people know him for.
Oh, wow.
Which is Future Imperfect.
Wow. So. Very cool. Very cool. Excellent, my friend Spencer. Good to see you as always on this weekly Scarif Live. We'll see everybody in the chat next week as we continue our dive into Darth Maul, son of Dathomir from Dark Horse Comics. Until next time, remember to always use your sunscreen. And if you want to leave a comment on this video, please do so. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say. If not, send us an email over at scarifscuttlebutt@gmail.com. But we also have a hotline, 773-234-8659. Put it in your Rolodex or save it as a favorite. Until next time, that's Spencer. This is Ro, and that is the Scuttlebutt. Talk to you guys later.